Assalamu alaikum, welcome to Game Changer. I'm Mariam Zia. Tonight we will be exploring the long-standing and multifaceted ties between Pakistan and Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. When we look at these ties, of course, we know that both countries have enjoyed these relationships that are rooted in mutual respect and religious values for decades now. And we know that Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif is in Riyadh now to attend the 8th edition of Future Investment Initiative. He will also be holding, of course, and has held bilateral and key bilateral meetings with the Saudi leadership when we look at, of course, the bilateral areas of cooperation between both the countries, and both the countries are looking to diversify their cooperation to areas of artificial intelligence, robotics and sustainability as well. In today's program, we will be looking towards the potential of expansion of these ties. We know that earlier this month, both the countries signed over 27 MOUs, and of course they were worth over $2.2 billion. What it means for both the countries when we talk about the future and implications for growth for both the countries, we will be discussing in today's program. To discuss this and more, we are joined in the studios. We are joined online by Dr. Waqar Ahmed, who is Senior Analyst. Welcome to the program. We're also joined by Dr. Usman Chohan, who is Advisor on Economy, CAS. Welcome to the program. And we are joined online by Mr. G.R. Baloch, who is former ambassador. Welcome to the program. Dr. Waqar, let me start with you. Of course, when we look at this visit of Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif to 8th edition of Future Investment Initiative, how significant is this visit for Pakistan at this point in time?
Initiative comes at probably a very appropriate time, given that Pakistan is trying to pitch its newfound macroeconomic stability to foreign investors, ensuring them that the timing to invest in Pakistan is now. And of course, as you may have seen, that the agenda of the Prime Minister includes inviting various investors into sectors which are very broad-based, including technology, food, education, mines and minerals, petroleum. So these are a host of areas where, of course, Pakistan is trying to pitch. And it's also important to mention that doing so in Saudi Arabia is far more important, given that both economies enjoy quite a bit of trade, investment and financial integration, which sort of makes it easier for investors to understand each other and find a comfortable place. I think probably one more thing that I'd like to add in response to your question is that the summit which the Prime Minister is attending, of course, points towards the potential of artificial intelligence and robotics and the potential it has for industry and agriculture. This is where probably industry from the developed countries is looking towards countries such as Pakistan, which have relatively economical manpower to support these areas. In terms of our price, in terms of our exchange rate, we are far more competitive than many other countries which are trying to pitch their technology sector and human.
Right, Dr. Waqar, you have rightly pointed out that this remains an important sector for Pakistan, especially when we know that Pakistan is one of the countries where we are getting a lot of remittances from Saudi Arabia. But when we look at this ongoing summit, of course, its theme this year is very interesting and very forward-looking, and it is themed at Infinite Horizons, Investing Today, Shaping Tomorrow. How do you think this is aligning with Pakistan's own economic goals?
Yes. So basically, the way Pakistan has tried to frame the medium-term economic agenda, it is under the 5 E's framework, which the Planning Commission has put forward. It's fairly broad-based and really resonates with the theme of this initiative, the Future Investment Initiative. And if one looks at our own homegrown thinking, which the Planning Commission has noted in the 5 E's framework, it does talk about attracting global investments in AI, robotics, energy space, healthcare, sustainability sectors, so these are basically the themes which are being discussed. Now, of course, I think one of the sort of core areas where we'll need to sort of make a lot of effort is that these investors who are in this space, they, of course, need to be attracted with utmost care. They cannot, of course, be subjected to the regulatory environment, which is very complex. So this is what Prime Minister has hinted towards even today in his communication, that Pakistan is easing the regulatory regime in many of these sectors, which are being dubbed as the sectors of future in this initiative.
Right, and of course, when we look at these MOUs, 27 MOUs that were recently signed between both the countries earlier this month, and they are valued at $2.2 billion. Do you think this visit is also a build-up of those MOUs, and what areas do you think are different that this visit is going to be covering that we don't see earlier on those MOUs or memorandum of understanding between both the countries? Right, Dr. Vakar, can you hear me? When we look at this visit, do you think this is a build-up on the earlier MOUs that were signed between both the countries, Pakistan and Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, that was valued at $2.2 billion?
Indeed, indeed. So I see this visit as a very strong follow-up of the Saudi delegation, which had arrived earlier. And the reason I say so is because at the end of their visit, they had noted Pakistan's success in securing the IMF program, and they were hopeful of an improved competitive environment in Pakistan. And I think a lot of meetings that are taking place between the Prime Minister and Saudi colleagues, many of those faces are featuring in again, which means that those entities who had visited Pakistan, those officials who had visited Pakistan, they are responding to Prime Minister's request, which was really to mobilize the resources as early as possible and materialize whatever was committed in the MOUs.
Right. Thank you very much, Dr. Waqar Ahmed, for joining us in today's program and for your valuable input. And now let me take the same question to Dr. Usman Chohan. Dr. Chohan, when we look at this significant visit and the MOUs, 27 MOUs that were signed earlier this month between both the countries, how do you think that this visit is an expansion of those visits, and in what ways can Pakistan expand and also attract investments from Saudi Arabia?
Yes, thank you for having me on your show, and thank you for the question. It is very interesting, and I do agree with Dr. Wakar that there is a kind of iterative process where there have been rounds of engagement. You would start by visiting them, they come to you, they see what are the possibilities, then you follow up with more detailed plans, you offer them a more rich perspective on the opportunity, and then you proceed like that with the first step, then the full implementation, and so on. And so we've done it in a very logical manner. We've done it in a very good faith manner. So have the Saudis. And so what you end up with is a kind of serious and concerted effort that involves all stakeholders and looks at the interest of both sides, both the Pakistani side and the Saudi side. So, and we have good experience of this from CPEC. And the Saudis have good experience of this from many engagements around the world. So both parties are quite seasoned in this now. And that's why things have moved along so fast, as I'm sure you'll observe. So this is how things should be done in the South-South cooperation. You know, this is how things we would want to be of this high caliber. So I'm very satisfied with this, and these various areas of cooperation are ones that do benefit Pakistan. They have been highlighted by our economic managers. They have been raised as areas of important focus for larger development goals. So I think we are all on the same page in terms of what needs to be done, and I think it's very good, very healthy that it's done in this manner.
Right, and Mr. G.R. Baloch, when we look at this significant visit of Prime Minister Mohammed Shehbaz Sharif to Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, what are your expectations from the bilateral meetings that are going to be taking place and that are taking place between Prime Minister and his cabinet, and of course with the Saudi leadership? What can we expect in terms of strategic and economic ties and expansion of those ties?
Thank you, Mariam. Actually, I would like to really go a bit focused on what the Prime Minister said. It is an amazing and a very, very creative and a very forward-looking statement that he made. And I would like to focus on what he said was the three vital domains on which Pakistan is seeking partnership, seeking expertise, seeking exchange of knowledge, and that is, and these are actually foundational domains. That is artificial intelligence, education, and health. I think that is how I think we probably can. What we you also mentioned, and other friends also mentioned that we have a youth bulge, and that can be a really a big surplus and a very positive in fact that we can leverage towards those countries which do not have that kind of an advantage. We are on that kind of course where our universities, our educational institutions are giving the appropriate training to these youth. So I think it is through this approach where we use leverage artificial intelligence, we leverage other innovations that we can really leapfrog and really attain what we always say the goal of being a middle income country, because I look at it from their point of view. And the only thing, I think the only the most logical approach for us would be to leverage these emerging technologies in all domains that are foundational to our improving the human resource in Pakistan, education, health, agriculture, and rightly
Of
pointed
course.
out that
Of course, energy and sustainability, of course, these are the areas that both countries are looking to expand their, of course, mutual cooperation. But Dr. Usman Chohan, when we look at Saudi Arabia's Vision 2030, we know that this ongoing future investment initiative is also in line with Saudi Arabia's Vision 2030. How do you think countries like Pakistan, like Mr. G.R. Baloch earlier alluded to as well, can benefit from these future-looking areas and avenues where Pakistan has the human resource, but it may lack a certain skill set and maybe economic resources?
Yes, absolutely. There's a lot of synergistic benefits from countries cooperating for mutual gain and working on projects with a long-term horizon. Saudi Arabia's Vision 2030 is very crucial to their development, further development, because it seeks to situate Saudi Arabia in a more diversified post hydrocarbon global economy and developing their human resources, sharing their skills, interacting in more sectors, not suffering from the Dutch disease, which is the excess dependence on hydrocarbons, and the appreciation of their currency. The thing with the Saudi economy right now is that it is difficult to balance the budget unless the oil is above a certain price. So, in order for that, they're looking for partners who can add inputs into their economy and places where they can invest for a higher return so that they have a more sustainable path towards 2030. And I'm sure they have a vision beyond that as well that has a synergy with 2030 itself. So, Pakistan benefits from that too because Pakistan has unique inputs to put into it. For example, such a large community of Pakistanis is working productively there, and at the same time all of these deals that are now in motion that you are hearing about as our prime minister visits there, all of this is part of syncretism and synergy between the compatible visions of two countries for a longer horizon.
Right, and Dr. Chohan, when we look at the earlier visit of Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif to Kingdom of Saudi Arabia in April 2024, where of course investment package of over $5 billion were discussed. How do you think and what do you make of the steps that have been taken so far in line with those investment deals or package?
Yes, well, it should all be seen as part of a larger comprehensive engagement. So when we look at when we reappraise what happened in April, when we look at what is happening now, we are not looking at it tactically in terms of step by step, but rather we're looking in terms of how these fit into the larger whole. And certainly the due diligence from both sides is very robust. It's because both sides have prioritized it. So Pakistan has prioritized Saudi participation in its economy, and then Pakistan has dedicated all kinds of resources to assist Saudi Arabia in its economic journey over decades. And that includes now. And that includes now offering useful investments for them that are also beneficial to our economy. Some of it seems very futuristic, but some of it is that futuristic stuff will be relevant very soon. And at the same time, there are more traditional sectors that also matter in that. So we're certainly looking at a more diverse portfolio that incorporates both the present and the future simultaneously.
Right, there are traditional sectors and there are future looking sectors as well. And to talk more about it, we are joined online by Mr. Munawar Mirza, who is senior analyst. Welcome to the program. So, Mr. Munawar, when we look at the future looking, of course, cooperation between both the countries, of course, artificial intelligence, robotics, technology and space exploration are some of the areas that are being discussed in this initiative. And of course, Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif in his recent visit and in his recent speech also alluded to these areas as well. How do you think that Pakistan can benefit from Kingdom of Saudi Arabia in these areas?
Yes. I would like to point out one specific thing here. This is the most opportune moment for Pakistan to seek the investment from Gulf countries and particularly Saudi Arabia.
Lot of potential when we talk about, and keeping in mind Pakistan's geopolitical and strategic location. Of course, Pakistan has had some difficulties in the past, but sky is the limit when we talk about exploration of these future, of course, areas. Mr. G.R. Baloch, what's your take on this when we talk about, of course, Pakistan's collaboration with Kingdom of Saudi Arabia in areas like artificial intelligence, robotics, and of course, traditional areas like energy as well?
Yeah, you see what happens that any cooperation among countries has to be underpinned by strategic convergence, and not only one, but convergencies actually, and also that Saudi Arabia and Pakistan are historical partners, uh, and we have cultural, ideological, and like kind of broad and deep political understanding. So what we need to do is to leverage this strategic convergence into uh, converting this strategic understanding into tangible cooperation, keeping in mind the present day needs of our population of the two countries actually. It has to be a essentially a win-win game. Only then I think we can realistically speak and say that the investors from Saudi Arabia would come to Pakistan and that both the countries benefit. It's just not when I always been, in fact, my even assignments as a diplomat, I always sort of to my host countries, I say that we must look for cooperation which is essentially for both the countries. It has to be a mutually beneficial cooperation. So I think Pakistan and Saudi Arabia since have a very deep and a broad understanding at the strategic level. So I think it is very easy. What we need is these experts to sit down together, identify those emerging technologies, like the way we are now concentrating on this very summit that our prime minister is attending for the future technologies. So I think, and also I believe that looking at the complexity of the issues and the challenges that the countries they face, and especially the countries of the south, it is through collaboration, cooperation among the way it was also indicated by one of our friends, the South-South cooperation. In fact, I would say the future since is for Asia, and most of the South and Southern countries are in Asia. So I think it will be very important for Pakistan, Saudi Arabia to really become a model of this win-win cooperation and collaboration in the future technology.
Of course, and Mr. Munawar, coming back to you, when we talk about, of course, collaboration between Pakistan and Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, we know that in alignment of with Saudi Arabia's Vision 2030, Saudi Arabia is also looking to diversify its economy. When we talk about specifically about semiconductors and digitalization, how can Pakistan benefit from Saudi investment, especially in the fields of IT, and keeping in mind our youth bulge?
You see that Pakistan has got a very large potential in both these fields. Pakistan has got, on one hand, a large population, and the population which consists of youth. And Pakistan and the present government under Shahbaz Sharif is especially focusing on developing IT and other technologies, while the Middle Eastern countries, particularly Saudi Arabia, is looking for diversifying its investment in various other fields. Because you see, oil is slowly, gradually coming down. And the use of oil, I have been to United Kingdom and Europe just a month ago and lived there for almost 3 or 4 months. I saw a tremendous change coming there. And the change was that China was producing a mass scale of solar panels. And this solar energy was being utilized in the European markets. So the oil developing countries will have to diversify, because the ultimate energy sources is not now oil. After 10 or 15 years, all these oil producing countries will have.
Of course, we have to shift towards the renewable energy resources as well. Thank you very much, Mr. Munawar Mirza, for joining us in today's program and for your valuable input. Coming back to you, Dr. Usman Chohan, of course, when we talk about energy cooperation between both the countries, and Saudi Arabia with its vast oil reserves remains one of the biggest exporters of oil. What role can it play in Pakistan's energy import bill, in reducing Pakistan's energy import bill?
It would be a tremendous role that they can play, and they have in the past. There have been areas where we have had serious supply constraints, and we have faced sanction regimes and things of that sort, and Saudi Arabia stood by steadfast. And the same is true in other periods of comparative normalcy, where the Saudis have always considered Pakistan to be a partner. Now, given that oil, we import more than 70% of our hydrocarbon needs, and in terms of our importability, it is a very significant percentage that goes straight to oil imports or natural gas imports. That means that countries such as Saudi Arabia, not exclusively Saudi Arabia, but including Saudi Arabia, have a very crucial role in helping us to balance the budget, the fiscal deficit, particularly the current account deficit as well, because energy is the lifeblood of the economy. And so if we don't have that sort of energy independence, then we require assistance from countries that are of the same mind as we are. So that is first and foremost the consideration when we look at our trade between them. But then there's also many other factors as Saudi Arabia diversifies into other economic sectors. So we should keep in mind the importance of it, but not an inclusive role of it. So that's how I view it.
Right, but Dr. Chohan, when we talk specifically about, of course, energy cooperation between Pakistan and Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, both countries have discussed collaboration in the past as well in projects like hydropower. What kind of initiatives can we anticipate specifically after this visit or after the MOUs that were signed earlier this month?
Well, the simplest way to put it is that the MOUs were a signaling of our intent, and that intent was quite comprehensive because, as you have alluded to correctly, there was a wide scope of areas in cooperation, including in infrastructure, including in mining, including in energy, among others. So, this is a priority area. Now, the next step in terms of incentivization is simply to implement those projects, get everybody on board, and follow the right schedule for things to be done in a timely manner. That's, I think, the primary thing. The implementation part, that is always the challenge for any developing country, is to make things come into practice, like practical implementation stuff. So I believe that
Right.
because of the political will being so strong on both sides, especially on the Pakistani side, I think the possibilities for this happening are very, very good. And so we should look forward to this type of cooperation happening in a serious way.
Right, and Mr. Jia Baloch, when we look at, of course, energy cooperation, given Pakistan's strategic location, how do you think that the strong energy cooperation between Pakistan and Saudi Arabia can enhance maybe, of course, regional stability or enhance regional connectivity in this region and beyond?
Yeah, indeed, that is what is our, in fact, strategic strength, if you will, of Pakistan. That makes it so important and a destination which cannot be escaped if any country is interested in a global supply chain, and especially since we have now developed Gawadar as a hub, and I'm sure all of us know it, that Gawadar is a very unique port where one of the heaviest ships can be anchored. No other port in the region, in fact in Asia, has that kind of a unique characteristic. I mean, it's all God's endowment to us. So when Gawadar becomes a fully operational and connected to CPAC, so I think we should and we are looking forward to Pakistan emerging as an global energy hub. And this is where, and I think even post-carbon, as was mentioned here by Dr. Saudi Arabia will remain one way or the other an important actor in the energy sector, whether it's whatever shape the energy would be. So I think from that, maybe it could be a gas, it could be LPG or whatever it is, but they will be dependent on some kind of energy where Saudi Arabia, I think, and that is the whole effort of Saudi Arabia to remain an important actor in the energy sector. And I think Pakistan does provide Saudi Arabia that strategic option to play and continue to play that role. So I think Saudi leadership do realize, and they have full understanding of to the strategic location of Pakistan, and I think what we need is what was said also to really this big vision, this big dream for the future of the two countries has to be implemented. I think this single word says it all, that we must try to sort of come up with concrete steps so that all the projects which have been undertaken, all the promises, all the big dreams, unless they're implemented in time, with efficiency and professionally, I think this is where our government seems to be serious, and I hope and pray that we are able to implement those dreams, and we really are ready to enter 21st century as a middle income at least country in the coming decade or so.
Right, right. And Mr. Jia Baloch, earlier when talking about Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif's recent, of course, address in the summit, you alluded to the significance of healthcare sector as well. What kind of opportunities are we talking about, or can emerge from Saudi's investments in Pakistan's healthcare sector, especially when we talk about infrastructure and other opportunities?
Yeah, definitely. I think the health is, unfortunately, education and health actually are two sectors which are unfortunately not. Of course, education to some extent has been now undertaken by private sector, but health sector is mostly for the common public is a public sector responsibility, and because of the funds constraints or the financial constraints, and sometimes I think a political will. So maybe Saudi investors can come up in this sector and come up with some development for construction of good medical facilities. We have enough of human resource. Again, we go back to that we produce about over 5,000 doctors all over the country in a year. And they are really very good doctors, as we all know that when they go out of Pakistan, they are doing so well in the United States and in the Western countries. So if the similar kind of opportunities are provided to them here in Pakistan, Pakistan can really become a center of health tourism as being touted by some of the other countries. They're being promoted by some of the countries, like in Turkey, Malaysia, even India to some extent. We do go for affordable medical care, although there have been some good initiatives, at least I know of, in the province of Sindh and some in Balochistan. Not that much, but in Punjab. So I think we should look at as to what Saudi Arabia can and should be interested in establishing good state-of-the-art, world-class hospitals in our cities, in our different provinces, which can not only be open to the Pakistani citizens, but to the other countries as well.
And Dr. Chohan, when we talk about, of course, laborers or skilled laborers in Saudi Arabia, we know that a huge number of Pakistanis are contributing to the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. And in this recent visit, we know that 30 letters of intent for regarding employment and regarding skilled laborers have also been signed. How do you think that Pakistan's laborers or skilled laborers, or what kind of skilled manpower can Pakistan provide to Kingdom of Saudi Arabia in terms of human resource development and under of course the vision of Saudi Arabia 2030, and how could it in turn benefit Pakistan in terms of its economy?
Absolutely. There has been a historic, you can say, niche that Pakistan has filled in terms of sending labor of all skill levels to Saudi Arabia. So there's two broad niches in that. One is the high skilled people, the managerial talent, the medical talent, so on, as well as a blue collar cohort, a very significant blue collar cohort doing the sort of construction, transport, and other industries. This bifurcation still exists, but there is an important trend in Saudi Arabia that we have to remain mindful of. You can call it the Saudiization or the indigenization of Saudi economy. And that is a good thing from Saudi Arabia's perspective, because they also want to provide good jobs for their own people. And so they have worked a lot on human resource training for their own people. So the caliber of Saudi workforce is much higher today than it was even 10 years ago, thanks to direct and precise interventions driven by their prince, the crown prince. So that is already yielding results. What that means is that the same niches, as opposed to having like broad areas fulfilled by the Pakistani workforce, there will have to be more effort on our side to fill more targeted areas, because now there is a Saudi community or Saudi workforce that will serve certain needs, and we have to work around that to provide value for them, and by extension that we create the remittance streams. Because when we talk talk about growing our export base, that's something you and I have talked about a lot. We should always think of the remittance as a kind of export as well, the export of labor. And that remittance thing has grown much faster than exports have because they don't depend on our internal bureaucracy. They don't depend on the amount of currency, foreign currency we hold. It doesn't depend on those things. So you can keep sending people who work hard and send things back home. So now we should start to calculate in
with
terms of
better
the
skill
parallel
set, of
between.
course. Right, right, but with better skill set. But Dr. Usman Chohan, at the same time, we know that one of the constraints when we talk about bilateral trade of Pakistan with Kingdom of Saudi Arabia remains that the trade is still in favor of Saudi Arabia. What kind of steps are needed at this point in time that we can create kind of balance between both the countries?
The fastest way to do this would be to increase the labor pool because the remittances would go up immediately. That's a much faster way to do it. But the longer term would be that you have a diversified economy with high complexity that addresses specific needs from the staples to the durables to the discretionary elements of their market. That would be better. But fundamentally, there likely always be a certain mismatch so long as we remain an energy importing country. As long as we are net importers of energy, the deficit is just a natural thing because that our demand for that is inelastic, whereas their demand for our exports is quite elastic. I mean, you can have, of course, workers from other South Asian countries, or you can have those basic things fulfilled in terms of towels and textiles and stuff from other countries. So this difference in elasticity will always be a factor, but we can work around that in a healthy way.
And when we talk about diversification to reduce the trade deficit between both the countries, what kind of sector should Pakistan be focusing on, since we are talking about economic ties and enhancement of ties between both the countries?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear the question.
Right. Dr. Chohan, when we talk about, of course, reducing the trade deficit between Pakistan and Saudi Arabia, what sectors do you think Pakistan should be focusing on, since we are talking about economic ties and enhancement of economic ties between both the countries?
It's not so much about what their demands are, but what we can supply. So we are an agri-based economy still, and there is a growing population in Saudi Arabia as well, so they have that food necessity. So that's one straight up. Then in terms of like their textile demand and consumer discretionary stuff, that remains a cornered market. That we're doing fine in that. So I guess the best way to quickly expand this is on the labor side, and that means both on the blue collar side and on the white collar side, where you have the specialists going there, while keeping in mind the Saudiization of the Saudi economy as well. So the indigenization of their economy. But it's not so much that they could absorb everything we produce if we were willing to do it. But given the limitations of complexity in our economy, it's more a question of what we can supply.
Right, and Mr. G.R. Baloch, when we talk about, of course, collaboration between Pakistan and Kingdom of Saudi Arabia in diverse areas, mining remains an important sector, and you earlier alluded to the significance of Reko as well. How do you think this particular sector and collaboration in coming days changing and contributing to Pakistan's economy, coming from, of course, when we talk about in terms of Saudi investments that are going to be coming in?
Yes, Mayam, we are endowed by nature with so much of kind of untapped wealth underneath our beautiful land. Copper, silver, gold, you talk and name anything. And what we lack is investment, because it requires a lot of money. It's all capital intensive enterprise. So Saudi, I think they can gainfully invest into the mining. And then, of course, there's another very crucial sector within the mining is the processing. For example, from Reko, I mean, we have some arrangement with some countries, but we get a very tiny share of it because we don't have the processing. For example, for the gold or for the copper, they take the raw ores from our mines, take it home, and give us a tiny little share of it. I'm sorry, I, as a Pakistani, would say that we should be able to get the investment from Saudi Arabia and other friends and develop our own expertise, train our own engineers, and have our processing units right there for various reasons. One, that we don't dependence on others and we get extra benefits. And most importantly, the people who are kind of living around it, because there has been a problem with us that there have been a resentment by some people that, oh, we don't benefit from it. The Recordec is there. The mines are coming. So I think it can generate a lot of jobs for the locals and our Pakistani nationals all over. So I think there's a need for us to get the Saudi investment and develop that infrastructure for optimizing the benefits of the mineral wealth that we have. Yes, Maria.
Right. And lastly, very briefly, Mr. G.R. Baloch, tell us that what are your expectations from this ongoing visit of Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif to Kingdom of Saudi Arabia in terms of enhancing already strong ties between both the countries?
I think it's a very constant and a continuous interaction between Pakistan and Saudi Arabia. I think the most visited country by our leaders is Saudi Arabia. In fact, there has been a tradition before that whenever a prime minister took oath of office, in most of the cases, the first visit abroad was to Saudi Arabia. So I think, especially this visit, since focuses on specific areas, so I think it will probably fill in that big gap of future horizons in which the two countries can hold each other's hand and move forward. And they also have a very big youth bulk. It's not only Pakistan, but if you look at Saudi population, they have the same problem that they don't have, like a lot of youth there in their own, from their population proportion. So I think the youth targeted investment, the youth targeted collaboration is all about the future. And it is the future that we all have to harness. If we don't harness the future now, probably we won't feel secure. We won't feel being equally treated in the world. So I think it is intrinsically in the interest of the two countries to collaborate and move forward in this way for the future cooperation and collaboration. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you very much, Mr. G.R. Baloch, for joining us in today's program. Thank you very much, Mr. Usman Chohan, Dr. Usman Chohan, for joining us in today's program. Of course, when we talk about Pakistan's ties with the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, we know that these ties are rooted in unique, of course, relations that is deep and unique in terms of interstate relations and traditional relations between any two countries. And when we look at this ongoing visit of Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif, this is going to be enhancing the economic relations and strategic partnership between both the countries. That's all from Game Changer tonight. Take care. Allah Hafiz.